morning, everyone, and welcome to the June 20th, 2024 meeting of the Johnson County Community College Board of Trustees. Won't you please join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So, by way of roll call, we do have a forum in that we have in attendance trustees Mitchell, Jennings, Cross, Rattan, and Hamill, and I believe that trustee Smith-Everett is just walking in the door.
I always like to make an entrance, trustee Drill, and my apologies.
No worries at all. We were actually visiting the SIPs and Scholarships event that's occurring right now over at our Culinary Center. It's a huge event. This is the second annual for our foundation, and so it was a great opportunity for us to go over there and visit with some of our scholarship recipients and spend some time before the board meeting. So with that, we'll kick off with our awards and recognitions. I understand we have none. Would that be accurate? Okay. Next up on the agenda is the open forum. The open forum section of the board agenda is a time for members of the community to provide comments to the board. There will be one open forum period during each regularly scheduled board meeting. Comments are limited to 5 minutes unless a significant number of people plan to speak, and in that instance, the chair may limit a person's comments to less than 5 minutes. In order to be recognized, individuals must register at the door 15 minutes prior to each regularly scheduled board meeting. When addressing the board, registered speakers are asked to remain at the podium, should be respectful and civil, and are encouraged to address individual personnel and student matters directly with the appropriate college department. As a practice, the college does not respond in this setting when the matter concerns personnel or student issues or matters that are being addressed through our established grievance or suggestion processes or otherwise the subject of review by the college or the board. There are no registered speakers at tonight's meeting, is that correct? Yep. And so with that, we will move on. And I'm liking the way that this meeting is proceeding. Next up is board reports, and we will start with the report of our college lobbyist, Mr. Dick Carter. You've been having some fun in Topeka.
We have, Madam Chair, and if you wanted to keep my report to 5 minutes, I'm sure Chris Gray would be happy because he told me to keep it short. So we did just finish a historical moment in Topeka, one of only 26 special sessions that have occurred in state history, and we just had one on Tuesday. Legislators came back, most legislators came back on Monday on the 17th for committee hearings on the tax bill and for Commerce on the Star Bond bill on Monday, and then gavelled in at 9 a.m. on Tuesday and finished early evening on Tuesday evening. Only 2 bills were discussed and passed, but 12 bills were actually introduced for that one-day session. And we don't need to go into those because they didn't even get talked about, but they're the type of bills that you can anticipate would be introduced at any session and probably next session. Just that's what we do in Kansas. The tax policy bill, for which the governor called the legislature back into special session, passed the Senate 34-4 and the House 121-2. Actually, that's far more votes in the Senate than any of the previous tax bills received. The vote was about the same in the House. Essentially, we're looking at the same, very similar product as to what passed before legislators went home at the end of April, beginning of May. We have restructured individual income tax brackets. There's going to be 2 now instead of 3. It exempts Social Security income from individual income tax. Again, that was included in the original bill earlier in the session. Increased standard deduction for all filers. One thing that it did do, and we've talked about this frequently, is the local ad valorem tax reduction fund. That was abolished, as was any language related to the funding of that. That was part of the tax policy bill. There was an increase in the amount of the appraised value of residential property for the first $75,000 of the value of your home on the 20 mills. For schools. So the state collects 20 mills. That's the only millage that the state collects. It's actually 21.5 because there's some that goes to some other educational building fund items. But that will actually represent some of a decrease in your property tax. I don't know if it'll be noticeable or not, but that's part of what they're claiming. And I'm going to talk about property tax a little bit later. There was an increase in the child and dependent care income tax credit. And then one of the things that we talked about very briefly, almost in code earlier in the session, was 1031 exchange. It's an IRS form that deals with property exchanges. And at one point, there was language put in there that could have triggered what we've called often the dark store theory language for property valuation. Just the property exchange piece was in there, not the language that we saw as inappropriate for what they were looking to do. That was also, those were the big pieces that were included in the tax policy bill that passed and that the governor indicated she will sign. Also, the legislature spent a good deal of time on an incentive bill for significant sports stadiums. There's no names tied to it, so it could be any sports stadium. It could be Cavaliers if we wanted to see if we met the criteria for building a new stadium here on campus. But that bill also passed, not as wide of margins, but it was veto-proof. It was 84-38 in the House and 27-8 in the Senate. And there's about a year. The sports teams that are probably likely to react to that proposal have a year in which to do so. Otherwise, that deal is not valid. So that kind of is what we've been doing for the past month, is preparing for this special session. The day-long activity that those two bills were passed. What we will be looking forward to now is this is an election year. It's an election year for all 165 legislators. This will be the first time the Senate is up for election in the new districts that were drawn 4 years ago. And then the House, which ran 2 years ago, they have already seen what those districts look like. And so we've got 11 retirements in the Senate. That's a little bit more than a quarter of the membership of the Senate. And we have 18 retirements in the House. And I'm not going to go into any details. We're still sorting through, and now's the time when people like me get together with our colleagues and we talk about who's running where and what side do they represent and where is their support coming from. And so I'll talk a little bit more about that in July. But I think next year we could see a push on property tax valuation constitutional amendment. That's something that I think will come back. There was one ready to go this year. It did not get introduced in the special session, that is. I don't know what we'll be talking about with regard to Medicaid expansion. Again, that doesn't necessarily apply to the college, but it takes up a lot of time in the discussion in Topeka. And based on the proposals that came forward that the Board of Regents considered today on tuition increases for state universities, I don't know if it stretches to all of higher ed, but I would guess that appropriations for higher ed will be pretty flat next year because some of those increases were fairly significant. Across the board for those state universities. Doesn't impact what we do here. You make those decisions for the students and for the campus here, but that will play out, I think, in the larger discussion next year. So I would stop there and see if there's any questions that I'm able to answer.
All right, thank you, Dick, for your report. Any questions for Mr. Carter? Trustee Cross.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Carter, the compromise plan just exempts the first $75,000 in property taxes?
Yes, that's correct.
This is for K through 12?
K through 12, the 20 mills.
Right, so it's still 20 mills. It's not reduced to 19.5.
The millage was not reduced. It was 19.5, I think, in the iteration that the governor vetoed. I think that there was a desire to see a 2 mil decrease to 18 mills. That's fine now for while times are good. I don't know what that means down the road when maybe the purse strings are a little tighter when it comes to funding education.
So that means if, I forget what Shawnee Missions is exactly, that's where I live. If it's 32, the first 20 we raise goes to the state. It's being redistributed to the state?
That is correct.
Okay. Yeah. And so then we get the first 75,000 and then the 12 over the 20, or whatever it is. I'm not trying to put.
Well, it's the first 75. I'm not sure I'm tracking the 12 over the 20. Yeah, the 12 over the 20 is not going to be impacted on that. So
yeah, yes,
I get it.
Yes.
Yeah, the local option and whatever else is over and above the 12, the 20. Got it.
Kansas has the goofiest tax collection system. Thank you.
Clear as mud. Trustee Smith Everett.
I just wanted to comment that your legislative update really read as a riveting novel. In those first two sentences, I was hooked. So, you can consider an alternative career if you are ready to move on from lobbying, because I was hooked from that.
Historical fiction.
That'd be great.
At least where they can get paid more.
Any other questions for Mr. Carter? Trustee Hamel.
I was trying to see if you were suggesting we should field a football team at JCCC.
I'm not touching that one.
Okay, just curious, that's what you're suggesting.
Any other questions for Mr. Carter? So I love the way you danced around the fact that our beloved chiefs may have been at issue in this vote. And I just want to know if there was any discussion of Tay-Tay involved in all that.
I don't recall that, but I wasn't one of the 27 lobbyists that were hired to advocate on their behalf. So I was a little bit outside of the conversation, other than what was held during the committee.
All right, well, I don't think any of us are holding our breath, but you never know. So thank you for your report, and as always, safe travels back to Topeka.
Thank you.
All right, next on the agenda is the report from our college council and Mr. Jason Arnett.
Hello. I managed to find my way here again. College Council met on June 12th with Dr. McLeod sitting in for Dr. Korb and Dr. Irene Olivares sitting in for Dr. View to represent ABC. The updates were brief and consisted of notes from Staff Council about items that they are addressing and information about projects in Cabinet and the search for a president. After that, the Council began to review its current bylaws and offered updates to them according to suggestions that were submitted previously and discussion in the room. We were very fortunate to have Dr. McLeod and his expertise there, and I think he had a good time helping us out with that. So, the Council adopted by acclamation this summary definition of shared governance. Shared governance at JCCC is a culture of collaborative input across campus that supports decision makers in advancing the work of the college and its mission, vision, and values through established committees, councils, and other structures and processes. It is a core tenet of shared governance that stakeholders have the opportunity to be heard prior to decisions being made, as decisions may impact a specific area. While the administration, as empowered by the Board of Trustees, that's you guys, has ultimate decision-making authority, all members of the JCCC community should have access to avenues of communication. And the tradition of shared governance at JCCC is continually evolving in response to the needs of the institution. And this is simplified from the very thorough definition that we have of shared governance. And so by adopting this, we're going to incorporate it into our bylaws, encourage the other councils to do the same. This will be part of a potential renovation of the committee's link on InfoHub that will hopefully and potentially make shared governance more easily accessible and understandable to everyone at the college. We'll have this right up there at the top of the page with everything. So if you don't know what shared governance is, you're going to have a pretty good idea if you go there, we hope. So, and then finally, the council is bringing the subcommittee on communication back together next week to go over some qualitative data that we gathered from the focus groups that we conducted back in October. And that subcommittee, as a reminder, was formed to address an issue that came up to us from Staff Council, and we hope to have that work all wrapped up in September. So that's it for College Council this month.
Thank you for your comments. Any questions for Mr. Arnett? Trustee Smith Everett.
I just wanted to ask, did you say the topic was communication? Mm-hmm. So it came up in October?
Well, it actually came up in May of 2022.
Oh.
And it got kicked up to, College Council in August of that year. We formed a subcommittee by January. We discussed it several months and then formed a subcommittee in January of 23. We conducted the focus groups in October of 23, and we're just now getting to finish it all. So it's been a 2-year process.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, is that's pretty long. Is it about internal communication? Or?
There were issues revolving around, and forgive me, I don't have it all stuck right in my head. There was an item that came up that Staff Council discussed that expressed concern about trust in senior leadership in 2022. that there was a lot going on in 22. So we've been very deliberate about trying to address the broader issues that came up in that one item, so we're not addressing one angry person.
Gotcha.
So,
Thank you for that.
Yeah,
That was
you're
it,
welcome.
Madam Trustee.
Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Arnett? Hearing none, thank you for your hard work. I enjoyed reading the definition of shared governance. Certainly, it's all about being heard and being meaningfully heard. And so I think this definition encapsulates that very well. So thank you for your hard work and the others who worked on that as well.
thank you very much.
Next on our agenda is the report from the Faculty Association and Andrea View. It's good to see you again. It's been so long.
Yes, I know. Can't get enough of me. I was like, I'm around everywhere. Hello, my name is Andrea View, and I'm the president of the JCCC Faculty Association. Even though it might seem like a decade ago, it's only been a little over a year since I was starting in this role. So I've definitely learned a lot over the past 13 months in this position. I do have to say, when I started here full-time in 2017, when I was teaching part-time some years before that, or even before that when I was a student here, I never quite imagined that I would be the person standing in front of you in this position, like giving these reports, kind of navigating whatever comes my direction. So I kind of have been reflecting a little bit on my journey to this point, and I do want to say I wouldn't really be here without the support of a lot of people. And so for me, people such as Ty Edwards, Farrell Hoy-Janab, Jim Liker, Brian Wright, Jim Lane, and Cheryl Hadley were part of my initial support system when I first started here full-time. And they are also the people that had the added treat of receiving all my questions. People from around the college like Sarah Boyle and Christy Howell, who I got to know as I moved through some of the peer review process and committing to more service around the college. And then members and leaders from different organizations such as the Faculty Association or the DEI Committee or the Strategic Planning teams. They've all been part of my journey here. And these last few years, all of you are included in that, trustees and cabinet alike. And so I do have to thank you all for that. Trustees past and present. I should acknowledge we had some retirees, and I've certainly leaned on those two a lot, so thank you to them. And I also do want to say to Dr. Korb, while we haven't actually known each other that long, I really have appreciated getting to know you and learn from you, because I am very thankful that you let me pick your brain from time to time. So I know I was joking with her the other day, I'm a little off script, but sometimes I send her 8 a.m. Monday, good morning. I have something I need to talk to you about. So that's happened. And I'm thankful that Judy is helps me. Finally, I also do want to just take a minute and acknowledge my mother. The other day, she remarked that one of the silver linings of this position is that I get to grow and tap into new skills as in this role. And I think that's such a great way of thinking about my work prior to being the president of the FA, is that there's all sorts of ways people can utilize their skills and abilities to serve this college. And for me, that's one of the things that keeps this job interesting. Anyway, looking toward another year of this role, some of the things that I'm excited about are our faculty association's goals to grow our partnerships around the college, work alongside our Center for Teaching and Learning and our CTL fellows, and contribute in a meaningful way to the advancement of the college and its culture. Farrell, who happens to have a birthday today, and you're welcome, Farrell, she gave me a tour of the new Center for Teaching and Learning the other day, and it was delightful, and we're all really very excited about that space and the support system that it's going to create for our faculty going forward. I also want to give a little shout out to both the negotiating teams and all the people who helped support negotiations this spring and summer. It was a massive learning experience for me, as I had not actually been a major part of that process before this. I'm really thankful to the faculty team, the co-chairs Jim McWard and Melanie Harvey, and additional members Irene Olivares, Jim Liker, and initially Andrew Lutz, who had to withdraw because he did accept a dean position. Congratulations to Andrew. And then the other two, I just want to shout out the other two people, Chad Sanner and Tom Wheeler, who were former faculty who are now deans or going to be deans. So we have 3 new deans, and they all used to be faculty, and we're very excited to support them as they start that journey. Anyway, I also want to say thank you to KNEA Director Jonathan Wright. I also am thankful for the administrative team and all the work that they have done. The lead negotiator, Mr. Gray Goheen, the college's lead counsel, and then the rest of the administration team, Rachel Lears, Christina McGee, Gurbashan Singh, and Jim Lane, as well as a lot of the support structure that was put around the process. So Janelle Vogler, Kelsey Nazar, Allison Weber, the folks from HR who were very supportive and very much involved in that process. Caitlin Murphy, Liz Loomis, Christina Zielinski, and the folks in the president's office who definitely kept us organized and sometimes helped us feed ourselves when we needed a snack. The custodial staff who set up the rooms, and also the ASL interpreters who made sure all of our meetings were accessible and inclusive. And then, of course, all the people that showed up to those meetings to just follow along with the process and kind of learn about it and see what was going on. Some final words, really, of thanks to Natalie Allman-Byers and LaWanda Hughes in institutional research, as well as Saul Epstein with EdTech, who helped a frantic me navigate the steps needed to get that vote set up on Monday. It really was, it takes a village is really what I'm trying to say, but it was such a process that I had to learn about, and all of those people helped me along the way. So I just wanted to say thank you to everybody. So I'll just close out with a few announcements. Of course, you have mentioned the summer SIPs that's going on right now. And so the foundation is hosting a really nice event over there. The Sorting Out Race traveling exhibit is currently in the CoLab through July 26th. The exhibit is a collection of everyday items from across America that display racial imagery, such as antique advertising cards, collectible salt and pepper shaker, vintage children's books, mascots, and others. It's sponsored by the CoLab and the Kansas Studies Institute. The Gender and Sexuality Alliance, it's a student club here on campus, and Safe Zone are holding a Pride event in the CoLab from 10 a.m. to noon on Friday, June 28th. There will be a Pride proclamation by Mike Kelly, who is the chair of the Johnson County Commission. And then there will also be some remarks from LGBTQ elected officials about what Pride means to them. And they are going to be providing snacks, stickers, they'll do some trivia, they'll have some prizes, and then you'll be able to make some Pride bracelets in the theme of our favorite person, Taylor Swift. And so co-sponsors to that event, they're being supported by Honors, Faculty Development, and the CoLab. And that is all I have.
Thank you, Andrea View. Any questions for Andrea? So I must tell you, every time you've taken the podium over the past year, or at least every time that I can remember, I've always complimented you on how sensible and rational you are. Now, the fact that you've decided to stay on for another year after having lived through this year does make me pause and question my ability to evaluate your reasonableness, but we are so glad you're going to be around for another year. Thank you, as always, for your insightful comments. I echo much of what you said. Definitely takes a village. I found myself thinking that at the beginning of your presentation as you were talking about all the people in your life who have paved your path, and certainly that's true for all of us. So thank you for your comments as always.
Yeah, well, I hope I didn't forget anybody, but so apologies if I did. Anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda is our JCERT update, and Trustee Smith-Everett.
Thank you, Madam Trustee. The JCERT tax account fund received $2,127,116.93 in sales tax in May 2024 and distributed $710,000 to each of the 3 university entities. For a total of $3.4 million distributed year to date. I will be taking a tour of KU Edwards later this month, and then have been invited out to K-State Olathe. They're trying to get all of us that are new to the JCERT board to come out and learn more about what we do. So I look forward to bringing you more information after those, although I don't think they know that I took the majority of my graduate coursework on their campus, so we'll discuss that when I go there for KU Edwards. But K-State Olathe, I hope they don't make me wear purple just to go on the tour, but I'll go and I'll be polite. So.
Well, that's good of you to do that. I know it's a sacrifice. So any questions for Trustee Smith-Everett? So I had the opportunity recently to be at the K-State Olathe campus. It's an amazing facility, and I think you'll enjoy your tour. So I'm glad you'll have the opportunity to do that. So thank you, as always, for your report. Next up is the foundation report, and Trustee Hamel.
Okay. For the foundation report here for June 2024, some enchanted evening of 2024, the date has been set for November 9th. I was wondering if that was at Overland Park Convention Center. Sponsorship opportunities are available now. They have something new this year where they're doing a half table. You can get a half table for $2,000. Full tables are being sold for $5,000, and sponsorships are selling fast. For more information, visit jccc.edu/SEE 2024. We had summer sips and scholarships this afternoon. It's still going on until, I believe, 8, as we were talking about earlier. 6, okay. So far, it's been a great success and raised over $10,000 for student scholarships. Special thanks to Nancy Ingram and Mimi Eckhart for co-chairing this very successful event. We have tickets available on sale for the Harvest Dinner. That is on Friday, August 23rd at the Rainier Center. Evergy and Hadamaki are both returning as event sponsors this year. And we also have a special guest culinary chef as a graduate from Johnson County Community College from Farmhouse KC. Visit jccc.edu/harvest-dinner for tickets on that one. Make sure you save the date for September 18th at 5:30 p.m. for an evening of 1960s fashion at the Johnson County Museum. We are featuring a historic fashion design collection, which is part of the exhibit at Johnson County Museum. There's a $50 ticket and will help to support the JCC Historical Fashion Collection. Special thanks to Leawood Lifestyle Magazine for securing the event underwriters. And we are very excited to announce the partnership and donor to fund spendable scholarships totaling $96,000 this year. Special thanks to Karen and Stephen Clegg for supporting CTE, fire safety, and dental hygiene scholarships. This is a 2-year agreement, and their hope is to double the number of students benefiting in 25-26 school year. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Trustee Hamel. You were well prepared, even though I was out of order. So any questions for Trustee Hamel? Thank you so much for your report. My mistake, in my defense, I opened my notebook and the next thing up was the foundation report. So I needed to put my glasses back on and hear from the KACC and Trustee Cross.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've done it 3 to 5 times myself. The KACCT, we met in person in Andover at the Butler Community College campus on June 2nd, I believe, June 1st or 2nd. And all colleges were represented except for Independence, which had a conflict with the scheduled meeting. There was a presentation provided from the auditing firm of Lloyd & Associates about common audit findings that they have encountered in municipal audits and items that community college trustees need to be looking for to ensure their college is in compliance with required statutes related to municipal budgets, federal financial aid, and other state and federal legal requirements. A presentation was provided by the Ullman Policy Group about how the upcoming Fair Labor Standards Act, FLSA, changes will impact higher education and recent lawsuits which have been filed in Texas in an attempt to stop changes. It is highly likely that the July 1 regulations, which increase the amount below which colleges have to pay overtime from approximately $35,500 to $43,800, go into effect, and colleges should start preparing for the second increase, which could go into effect on January 1, and which would move the threshold to $58,600. And I'm reading all this because it took me a long time to learn why Jerry and Nancy always did it. And it's critical that I think the 7 of us know that we have an awesome administration that generally takes care of all this. These are not really issues for us to worry about, but I want to put it on newer trustees' radar for things they should be looking for and questions in detail they should be asking as they're sticking their nose in. Colleges need to be making plans to ensure employees are converted to hourly and start tracking time and are paid appropriately under the new regulations. Most colleges shared that they will be limiting work hours to avoid overtime payments. Ji-Hang Lee, President and CEO of the National Association of Community College Trustees from Washington, D.C., presented on the many federal regulations that will be changing effective July 1 and benefits of ACCT membership include and support for community college. include membership and support for community colleges. Kathy Sexton, a former longtime city county manager, provided an excellent boardsmanship training and talked through why it is important for boards to work together and how to deal with difficult situations. And Dr. Corbin and I were both there I was there for that one. I was a little bit late, but there for that. An HLC liaison provided an overview of what colleges need to be aware of in terms of the most frequent HLC findings and how to avoid such issues. Number 7, the South Central Kansas legislators joined the group for breakfast. A presentation from colleges around the state was provided highlighting business and industry partnerships, collaboration, the flexibility of community colleges to meet the needs of industry. And was it Butler that did the awesome videos like for ESPN and other institutions, Wichita State? Butler has an awesome media and film department. Number 8, a final legislative wrap was provided, as well as how much state funding each college should expect next year. Issues related to expanding academic offerings at community colleges was also discussed. There's a lot to unpack there that I'm not going to go into right now, but you should ask me or you direct it to Dr. Korb. The fiscal year 2025 contracts, budgets, and dues for KCCC were approved by membership. Number 10, online community college finance training was held June 5th by Zoom, and our next meeting will be August 23rd and 24th, 2024 at Kansas City, Kansas Community College. That's in Kansas City, Kansas. Heather writes for me. And December 6th and 7th, we will be at Labette County Community College in Parsons. And then next April, PTK event will return to Topeka because our students really super wanted to go see the Capitol and not have to slum it in Junction City, despite the awesome prices we got at that event center. So, Madam Chair, that concludes my report, and I stand for any questions.
Thank you for your report, Trustee Cross. Informative as always. Any questions for Trustee Cross? Trustee Smith Everett.
Just a comment that we, as board members, have tried when our neighbors are hosting KCCT to have some representation because we're local partners. So if we could get a calendar invite with that, I would love to have that on my calendar, and I'll try to come for, is there usually a reception or a dinner?
We usually do a Friday. We meet midday, 10 or 12. We start at 10 or 12 to allow everybody to get there from all over the state. And then we'll have a dinner that evening. Usually there's a reception, then a dinner. Then the next day we reload and have a breakfast and have meetings till about 11:30 or noon. They usually send us off with a box lunch. So
I don't know if you could advise us on which part to attend, but I remember it my first year, and I went to, I think it was KCK, and then we hosted right after that, so.
I've been to 2 or 3 now in my time, and like I attended one in 2016 when Dr. Cook couldn't go. You're welcome to all of it, and I think it's useful. And I think a number of our brother and sister schools in the state, a lot of it's for them, and I'm happy to be a part of it, and we should be a part of it. But there really are some schools struggling, quite candidly. I'm not going to name them, but their general existence is in question. And so some of this is vital information for them and their presidents. I would recommend, late afternoon, possibly joining for the dinner. I find the information is useful, but then the networking is critical. Yeah. Harry Truman used to walk around Missouri and say, "Look, I just wanted to present myself and let you know I was human. I don't have cloven hooves just because I'm from Jackson County." So it's good that they know who we are, yeah, and that we do care, and that we pay an awesome amount of dues, candidly, and we help support that organization immensely, and they help Mr. Carter lobby, and Heather's fabulous. Heather has gone to bat for us when I was chair and more privy to some of the legislative machinations. Like, Heather has been critical to, frankly, redirect the governor's agenda in terms of where money's going in higher education and the need for it to come to the community college level. So the South Central legislative delegation was there, and they've supported us, even though community colleges probably took a hit this year. But we have been held harmless or done well the past few years, and there's a number of people on both sides of the aisle that have seen to that. So I'm proud to be a part of it, and I'll be quiet now. So.
That concludes my comment.
And thank you for bringing that up, because I think it would be an excellent idea for as many of us to attend as can. So, any other questions for Trustee Cross? I wanted to echo just briefly something that you said, Trustee Cross, and that is, And of course, the FLSA issue piqued my interest because that's what I do. And I will tell you that we've been inundated with calls from clients about how are we going to deal with this? Is the lawsuit going to result in an injunction? What are we going to do? We have the privilege of overseeing an organization where we're never going to hear about that because we have wonderful people in human resources and in the administration who are going to seamlessly deal with whatever needs to be dealt with if that final rule does not get enjoined. And what a privilege that is to have quality people in positions of leadership in our institution so that they can take care of those things for us. And so I thought that was a really valid point that you made.
I thank you, because some of these things in our, Dr. Cook used to always get on me, like, pay attention, put your phone down, we need your critical eye. I go, you don't want to hear what I have to say. He goes, we need to. I'm like, okay. It's just critical we know what's going on and we're aware of the issues so we have general knowledge. And I thank you for your patience.
Thank you for your report. And with that, we will move on to our committee reports and recommendations, and we will start, Trustee Hamel, with you and the Employee Engagement and Development Committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Employee Engagement and Development Committee met on Wednesday, June 5th. Information related to the meeting can be found in the packet on pages 1 through 3. We had a new agenda brought to us kind of last minute from Christina McGee concerning staff salaries. I want to read the recommendation. It is the recommendation of the Employee Engagement and Development Committee that the Board of Trustees authorize effective July 1st, 2024, a 5% salary increase for all non-bargaining units salaried and full-time and part-time hourly employees as of June 30th, 2024. And I so move.
Second.
Motion made by Trustee Hamel, seconded by Trustee Cross. Any discussion on the recommendation? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. You may continue with your report.
Okay. Christina McGee also provided an update on the Office of Human Resources. She highlighted the upcoming Department of Labor salary threshold changes that may impact our current exempt employees and the new Title IX rule. Christina also shared updates regarding the implementation timeline for updating the goal-setting feature of the performance evaluation platform. We also had an update from Electra Arizola, Employment Service Manager. She talked about the talent acquisition specialists that were hired. They've also are processing over 2,500 applications so far this year. I believe that's practically double from last year, so it was a very timely hire. They also talked about the automation process of the offboarding, onboard processes. I believe the offboard is launching this fall, and then the onboarding, are they starting on it, or are they launching it in July 1st? They're starting working on it, right?
They're starting on it.
Okay, that's what I thought, okay. Yeah. We also had an update from Rachel Hines, Director of Employee Engagement and Development. She talked about staff development programs and the large variety of workshops that are offered for employees to participate in at absolutely no cost. She also shared updates for upcoming events. Professional Learning Days will be held August 13th through 19th. We have Welcome Week that will start August 26th, and the All-Employee Picnic on September 13th. Misty Miller, Benefits Manager, talked about some file automation of the 9 BK keepers and the TIAA carrier files in progress. This is going to save some time for the HR department and also protect us from any possible math errors that could come from doing it manually. She also talked about keepers. GASB 68 and GASB 75 reports were completed. And last, she advised the renewal for the International Student Health Insurance is complete, and there was a 4% premium increase. This was because the utilization was under 75%. And thank you, Ms. Chair. That concludes my report, unless somebody has any questions.
All right, thank you for your report. Any questions for Trustee Hamel? All right, hearing none, thank you so much for your report. There's always a lot going on behind the scenes. I'm glad to hear that we're getting some folks on board to assist with the recruiting, particularly given the influx of applications, which I hope is not due to the fact that we have tons of positions to fill, but more due to the fact that more people are out there seeking jobs, and maybe the labor shortage is loosening up a little bit. So thank you for that. Next up is the Management and Finance Committee. report. And before we start, I just want everyone to know there's a tiny insect flying around up here. And so if you see us doing this, we're really not losing our minds. There really is a bug up here. So it's a little bit bothersome and distracting. And Trustee Hamel, I would encourage you, if there is a method of doing so, to consider maybe bundling some of these recommendations. I will leave that to your discretion to determine whether or not that's feasible.
Thank you, Ms. Chair. The Management and Finance Committee held their meeting also on Wednesday, June 5th. Information related to the meeting can be found on pages 4 through 12 of the board packet. Sandra Warner, Executive Director, Mission Continuity and Risk Management, provided a semi-annual report on mission continuity and strategic risk management activities. The mission continuity ensures disaster recovery and continuing plans that are in place to sustain academic and administration functions throughout adversity. An overview of the annual property insurance renewal process was presented along with a 5-year look back of insurance premiums. She also shared an analyst and risk management program of the next steps for risk response dashboards. Tom Hall also presented she basically went over the progress in the CDL driving range and the GEB first floor renovations. He provided another recommendation for the CDL range, and I'm going to read that next. It is the recommendation of the Management and Finance Committee that the Board of Trustees accept the recommendation of the College Administration to approve the granting of a non-exclusive easement to Evergy on JCCC property near and around the CDL driving range facility in Edgerton, Kansas, related to the installation of infrastructure that is setting out a transformer necessary for supplying electrical energy to the CDL driving range building and site. And the board authorized the president to execute the necessary documentation to grant such an easement, to take such other action necessary and appropriate to officiate the same. And I so move.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Trustee Rattan. Any discussion? So, Trustee Hamel, just for my clarification, this is a non-exclusive easement so that Evergy can come in and install their equipment, but we can still use that property because it's a non-exclusive easement.
Correct.
Do I have that right?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other discussion following that? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0, and you can continue.
Okay. I know there's 6 here, but I think we can go through them pretty fast, and instead of just doing them all as one. So the first one we got is Media Management Services. Is the recommendation of the Management and Finance Committee that the Board of Trustees accept the recommendation of the College Administration to approve the bid response from Kansas City Auto Visual for the total expenditure of $166,086. And I so move.
Second.
Motion made by Trustee Hamel, seconded by Trustee Cross. Any discussion? Trustee Hamel.
So I want to bring up that this is part of the smart classrooms, and we're spending $1 million on. And as much as I would like it and I would want it, I feel like this is a want, and especially since we're talking about all the higher expenditures we're going to be having for faculty and staff, which I think is more critical than the smart classroom. I'm going to vote against it this time.
Any other discussion following those comments?
What's your opposition to the smart classrooms? You've been consistently
Yeah.
against it. I'm not trying to attack you.
you're good.
I'm not sure I disagree with you, but what's your opposition?
So my take is that it's great, and I've seen them, I've had tours of them, and I see lots of benefits to them. I believe this gets us to about 50% of our classrooms. Is that where we're at now, or?
That's the goal.
That's the goal, okay.
We're not there yet.
We're not there yet, but we're actually very close.
Okay. And again, I'm glad that the students get exposure to this. There's a lot of great things to say about it. I'm definitely not saying anything negative about the smart classroom itself. What I'm saying is that when we're talking about raising the mill levy again to pay for our faculty and our staff, which is more critical than the smart classroom, I would rather wait on this and go back to this when we feel we don't have to raise the mill levy to do it.
But we're not raising the mill levy this year.
Well, I'm just saying, I don't want to raise taxes, and I know we have a large expenditure coming.
Okay.
And I know we got to take care of, I think, things that are more critical than this, and I feel like this is a want. And sometimes our wants, we have to say, not today, maybe next year, and I feel like this is one of those things.
Well, I feel like big data and big computer chip has too much influence, so
So,
We could agree, I'm just not going to this time.
I got you.
I just want to understand your position. Thank you. Thank
Any
you,
other
Madam Chair.
discussion? I would just like to comment on a couple of things. First of all, we're not raising the mill levy. And so that needs to be abundantly clear. And when I consider a recommendation that's before the board, the first question that I always ask myself is, how does this affect teaching and learning in the classroom? My number one priority is student success. And we balance that with being good stewards of the taxpayers' dollars. We have anecdotal evidence, really statistical evidence, that was presented to us. I can't recall exactly how long ago it was. Dr. Singh presented that September. That indicated that these classrooms are a tremendous benefit to the students and to the faculty who teach within them. As a former educator here at the college, I absolutely can see the benefit to the students in having an active learning classroom, and I am a strong believer that these classrooms are beneficial to student success and teaching and learning in the classroom. And I just kind of wanted to make that position clear in terms of how I evaluate our expenditure of the taxpayers' dollars. And so with that, any further discussion? Hearing none, yes, Trustee Cross.
I agree with you, and I thank you for your comments, Madam Chair. I think he meant we considered raising the mill, and I just wanted to clarify that we did.
That's fair.
It was my fault. So.
That's fair. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Yes.
Opposed?
no.
Motion carries 6-1, and you can move on.
Okay, next we have an online virtual campus tour. It is a recommendation of the Management and Finance Committee that the Board of Trustees accept the recommendation of the college administration to approve the proposal from Circuit Virtual Tours for a base year of $40,400 for a total expenditure of $181,722 throughout the renewal options, and I so move.
Second.
Motion made by Trustee Hamel, seconded by Trustee Cross. Any discussion? Trustee Smith Everett.
I warned our fearless leader that I would be asking him a question. So my question is, when we had the discussion about the virtual tours, maybe last year, maybe the year before, time is just a circle and I can't keep track. We discussed that currently the virtual tour is part of the component when our website loads, right? And it's really taxing for people who don't have enough of what, RAM, bandwidth? What do you need to load that stuff?
A little of each.
Okay. Are we changing the way that we do the virtual campus tours? Because I've actually sent people to it several times to check it out from afar, and I think it's a great tool. But it being loaded on our website, I know it's not directly about this, but it prompted me to think about the rehab of our website. How does
Chris Gray, Vice President, Marketing Communications.
Hi, Chris.
Good job.
How you doing?
Thank you.
Short answer, yes,
Chelsea's clapping for you.
I'm going to, though.
someone's appreciative. That's good. Short answer, no, this tool isn't going to change loading. And if you do hear of anyone having issues, let me know. It's compatible, it's responsive. There shouldn't be issues unless there's a internet connection. So I'm unsure of the taking time to load, but let me know if you ever do hear of that.
I haven't since.
Okay.
I did at the time. That's why I
So yeah, so this tool is comprehensive. It's an awareness tool. It's a lead gen tool. It's a tool that's used by faculty. It's a tool that's used by marketing. It's a tool that's used by recruitment and admission. You actually see it rotating quite a bit around when kids are on campus as well. We always say, get people here. You can't always get people here. And ironically, I think 55% of the views are actually current students, not just people here, but it allows students to see the vastness of what we do have to offer, because they can actually go into active learning classrooms, they can explore other buildings, they can hear about other programs. So it's a tool that I do support, and it's fairly standard across most colleges and universities currently.
Well, thank you, because that was my other question about our usage, so
Yeah.
I'm really glad to know that. Thank you.
Did I answer your question?
Yes,
Okay. Any other questions?
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, Molly.
thank you. Sorry to call you on the spot.
Okay, any other discussion on the recommendation that's before us? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0, and you can proceed.
Okay. The next one is for the Science Building rooftop solar panels. It is the recommendation of the Management and Finance Committee that the Board of Trustees accept the recommendation of the College Administration to approve the proposal from MC Power Companies in the amount of $307,739 with an additional 10% contingency of $30,774 to allow for possible unforeseen costs for a total amount of $338,513. And I so move.
Second.
Second?
Motion made by trustee Hamel, seconded by trustee Cross. Any discussion? Trustee Hamel?
Sure. So I did a little research into this. Looks like we're doing 452 panels at 535 watts per panel. And this is a cost of $1.41 a watt. I learned a lot more about solar panels recently. And I've been assured this is an absolute great expense for us. We got it at a very good deal, and this should pay off and have a very fast return on investment.
Okay, thanks for that extra information. Any other discussion? I think saving our planet is always a helpful add as well. So with that, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. You may proceed.
Okay. Background checks and drug screening services. It is the recommendation of the Management and Finance Committee that the Board of Trustees accept the recommendation of the College Administration to approve the proposal from TrueScreen for an estimate base year of $49,279 for total estimate expenditures of $246,395 throughout the renewal options, and I so move.
Second?
Motion made by trustee Hamel, seconded by trustee Smith-Everett. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. You may proceed.
Next one we have is a merchant credit card processing service. It is the recommendation of the Management and Finance Committee that the Board of Trustees accept the recommendation of the College Administration to approve the proposal from TouchNet for an estimated base year of $456,216 for a total estimate expenditure of $2,281,280 throughout the renewal options, and I so move.
Second.
Motion made by trustee Hamel, seconded by trustee Cross. Any discussion? Trustee Smith-Everett.
Wanted to know if you knew, it is the highest bid, and I didn't know if you had any insight into that.
So I don't remember who has helped me out with this, but basically if we change it to one of the other ones, we'd have to change the hardware as well. This is one that offers the hardware and the software at the same time. If anybody has any more, feel free. But this actually lowers it the most you can possibly do without having to do major changes across campus. So after factoring that in, it is the lower bid.
More affordable. Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion?
Good job paying attention.
Thank you.
Trustee Hamel, can you just briefly, this is a big dollar amount, can you just briefly explain what this TouchNet thing does?
So basically, this is what we use to process credit cards. And again, if anybody has more information than me, please feel free. Across campus, and it does it on even our vending machines to the restaurant, everything we do. And again, you have hardware and software that go together. And working in facilities where you have a different vendor that uses hardware and one uses software, you can get a lot of issues going back and forth and one blaming the other. That, when you deal with some of those things, one say it's the software, and somebody say no, it's the hardware, and you can't get anywhere done. So this is one of the companies that offers both at the same time. And so it gives you faster service to get things corrected and fixed whenever you have problems. And again, without having to switch to a different vendor and switch out our hardware, this is the best deal to go.
Okay, thank you for that. And in a world where probably most of us have at this current moment no cash in our purse or wallet whatsoever, this is clearly essential. So any other discussion?
I think that's well said. We anticipate improved customer service and better user experience for folks as well, digital wallet capabilities, some things like that. And I also just wanted to point out that this amount isn't just TouchNet's fee. It also includes the card interchange fee. So the amount that we pay back to Visa, MasterCard, Amex, Discover is part of that estimated amount. And this one's really hard to estimate because it's based on the number of transactions that we process in a year, which is about 300,000 transactions a year. So it is a significant expense, but the committee was uniform in the recommendation of this particular vendor.
Okay, that's also very helpful. I was wondering if the credit card fees were included in there.
Correct.
So, very helpful. And thank you, Trustee Smith-Everett, for pointing out that we had a comment. Any other discussion? All right, hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. You may proceed with your last
The
recommendation.
last one, we have network infrastructure products and software subscriptions. It is a recommendation of the Management and Finance Committee that the Board of Trustees accept the recommendation of the college administration to approve the final renewal option year for Sirius Computer Solutions for network infrastructure, products, software, and subscription for a total amount of $1,542,500 through June 18th of 2025. And I so move.
Second.
Motion made by trustee Hamel, seconded by trustee Cross. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. You may proceed.
Thank you. That concludes my report, Madam Chair.
Awesome, thank you for that. That felt a little bit like a marathon. All right, next on our agenda then is the Student Success Committee report, and trustee Jennings.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Student Success Committee met at 9:45 a.m. on Wednesday, June 5th, 2024, in GEB 137. Sheila Maupin presented a curriculum updates for the 25-26 academic years. Complete details can be found in the consent agenda on pages 54 through 57 of the board packet. Policy update. Shelley Allen reviewed the recommended changes to several policies as part of the scheduled review of college policies. The material changes for each policy can be found on pages 13 through 40 in your packet. These were just really nice updates and clarified a lot of the language. Since there are several policies before us tonight, I move that the Board of Trustees consider the policies in one motion.
Second.
Motion made by trustee Jennings, seconded by trustee Cross, that we consider a total of, do we have 6? 8. 8 recommendations, and you want them all included, trustee Jennings?
Correct.
That we consider 8 recommendations in a single motion as a bundle related to policy revisions. Do we have any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. You may proceed with your bundled recommendation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It is the recommendation of the Student Success Committee that the Board of Trustees accept the recommendation of the college administration to approve modifications to Admission Policy 310.01, Assessment Policy 311.02, Scheduling of Courses and Add Drop Policy 311.03, Enrollment Status and Course Load Policy 311.04, Auditing Courses Policy 311.05, Tuition Refund Policy 312.01, Financial Aid Policy 313.01, and Student Code of Conduct Policy 319.01. By the direction of the Student Success Committee, I so move.
Second.
Motion made by trustee Jennings, seconded by trustee Smith Everett. Any discussion about any of these policies, each of which are set forth in your board packet with red line revisions and sort of a summary of the changes? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0 as to all 8 of those policy changes. You may proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Elisa Waldman, Amy Sellers, Mallory Mitchell, and Diane Smethers presented affiliation agreements, including both new agreements and renewals. Complete details can be found in the consent agenda on page 54 through 57 of the board packet. I will just add that the new agreements include the Girl Scouts of Kansas City, Missouri, and then also Shawnee Mission School District. Jason Lafferty provided an update on the hospitality program and strategies for increasing enrollment. Growth strategies include updating and right-sizing the curriculum, adding to the degree offerings, offering credentials at local high schools, adding evening cohorts, and partnering with local schools to utilize Johnson County Community College facilities. Leadership will continue to analyze the curriculum and the local market, as well as engaging local high schools as a student pipeline. And having listened to his presentation, I must say I was very impressed with his thought and recommended path what he wants to take with targeting some things that need to be done. Jay Annell provided an update on the Center of Sustainability. He reviewed the history of the center, past awards, and peer institution comparisons. He reviewed the results of the Noel Levitz survey, which included students feel the college's sustainability, which indicated students feel the college's sustainability efforts are valued and that this metric score increased from 2021 to 2023. Other initiatives include solar projects, the Harvest Lunch and Dinner, composting, the Open Pedal Farm, integrating sustainability concepts in coursework and public outreach efforts. He thanked Johnson County Community College for their continued support.
Thank you. Any questions or comments for Trustee Jennings? The only comment that I wanted to make is, oh, I'm sorry.
Sure, you can go first, Steve.
No, go ahead. Did you have
Well,
something?
I'll just say, I was pretty excited about hearing Jason's report. I know people in the food and beverage industry, and I spent quite a bit of time in there myself, and it looked like a lot of those updates that he was talking about trying to get through, and I don't know what the final product's going to look like, but I think it's going to be a really good move in the direction, and I think a lot of students are going to really appreciate it. I talked to a few that thought about coming here and didn't, went straight to workforce, and I think if those changes were in place, we would have had those students, and I'm sure a lot of the research is saying those same things, so it's pretty exciting. And
Yeah, you know, one of the points he touched on was how students today really are looking for an institution to go to that is sustainable. And Johnson County Community College is one of those, given his direction. So it's pretty amazing.
Thank you for that. And I apologize that I missed the wave of your hand. Any other questions or comments for Trustee Jennings? Hearing none, I just wanted to briefly comment, sort of to echo what Trustee Hamill was saying. It sounds like there are some great ideas with respect to the hospitality program, and I'm particularly excited to hear about the sort of increased collaboration and working with our high school students, our area high school students. I think that's a great pipeline into our program and certainly offers an opportunity to give our high schoolers perhaps a different option as they consider career paths. And so I always think that's a tremendous opportunity to engage in the community. So thank you for your report.
Absolutely.
That takes us to the President's recommendations for action, and we'll start with Treasurer's report and Trustee Hamill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Treasurer's report can be found starting on page 43 of the packet. During the month of April, the college made payments totaling $106,150 on the Series 2012 and 2019 revenue bonds. Expenditures in the primary operating funds are within approved budgetary limits. It is the recommendation of the college administration that the Board of Trustees approve the Treasurer's report for the month of April 2024, subject to audit, and I so move.
Second?
Motion made by Trustee Hamill, seconded by Trustee Smith Everett. Any discussion about the Treasurer's report? Hearing none, seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Does that conclude your
That
report?
concludes my report.
All right. Next up is the monthly report to the board and our president, Dr. Judy Korb.
Thank you. Well, we're almost 3 weeks, we are 3 weeks into the summer semester. And so at census, we recorded a 2.9 increase in head count and a 5.2% increase in credit hours compared to last summer. So up a little bit there. Workforce and continuing ed enrollment is at 16,344 for FY24. So that's a 94.2% of the total enrollment goal for the year. So looking back to last year, that represents about a 13% increase over where they were at the end of year last year. So their overall enrollment is up, which is great. Completion of the CDL range is on schedule and will be finished in the next few weeks. I don't know exactly when, but we're looking forward to actually getting classes started there as early as mid-August. So they think that's going to work out well. We're also continuing to work with Panasonic. Panasonic have changed their direction a little bit, and their focus is now on credit and building a credit program instead of a non-credit program, which is what we had been working with them prior. So Mickey has taken the lead on this now and is currently working with Panasonic to develop a scope of work, and that's going well. I think that will be done fairly soon. At the same time, we're in the process of remodeling the temporary boardroom that we were in to create a classroom that will work really well for the Panasonic training. And we're also working on restructuring like the delivery sequence of the curriculum, the credit curriculum, to put it in a format which they're wanting for their, really, it's the same curriculum, it's just a different delivery schedule is basically what we're doing. They're looking at a December target date now, but their plans kind of keep getting pushed back. So we'll see, but that's what we're working with them, and we don't think that we're going to have a problem meeting what it is that they're asking us for at this point. So hopefully that keeps moving ahead. So things tend to slow down just a little bit in the summer. I always hate to kind of like notice that, but we know that it's going to pass quickly. Summer will pass quickly. We're already planning for the professional learning days in the fall. Looking ahead to fall enrollment is trending up, and it's currently up about 8.8% in headcount and 6.9% in credit hours from this time last year. But you know that shifts and changes, and so these are just points along the way. But that's where we are right now.
All right, thank you for your
Please, my
report.
report.
Any questions or comments for Dr. Korb? Trustee Smith-Everett and then Trustee Cross.
Did continuing ed have anything that contributed to being at almost 94% of their enrollment in the 6th month of the year?
No, they're at the 94th percent of the year. So they're almost all the way through their year because
Okay.
it's the fiscal year.
When does remind me what their year is?
So
then.
their year is July 1 as
Okay,
well.
okay,
So
gotcha.
they're like,
Wow,
yeah, I know, they're doing great.
Right.
I know, no,
Okay, that
they're
makes more
almost
sense.
finished up with their year,
Okay.
as we are, so.
Gotcha.
But when they look at that, looking at where we were last year, they're still up about 13% over where they were last year.
Okay, that's great. I had another question that I don't remember now, so if I think of it, I will reach out to you.
You can ask.
Where did we end up last year, do you know?
With,
If they were 13 percentage points behind where they are today, did we end up meeting our goal, or am I not asking the right question?
no, I think you're asking the right question, and I don't have that information right now.
Okay.
If we're this close to the end of the year and they're at 94% of the total enrollment goal, they may not quite meet this year's total enrollment goal, but they're still 13% above where they were last year.
Right.
But I don't know last year what their exact goal was and if they.
But we're going to be darn close by the
Well-
end of the fiscal year.
Okay, so this tells us total enrollment at the end of June 2023 was 14,403. So that's the number.
Okay.
I don't know what the percentage was, but I can get that.
Oh, no, that's fine, I was just curious. Okay, any other questions? Trustee Cross, you were up next, and I'll come back to you, Trustee Smith-Everett.
Yes, just a few things, if I may. I'll try to do it quickly. Who else from the cabinet is not at this table?
Is not
Yes.
at this table?
Is it just because of space that we don't have room for everyone?
Right.
Okay.
Because we have Kate and Chris and Christina and
Okay.
Gerb and Shelley and Marquise and John,
Rob and Janelle.
Rob, Janelle. 15 total. Yes, we have 15 total.
I tell my wife that the things I don't say outweigh the things I say, so sometimes I do want to give weight to them. So I noticed that there are not people here. And that's no statement on you or anyone, I'm just saying.
And Elisa Waldman, yes.
So, second, thank you for continuing these reports. Dr. Bound and I discussed whether there's any merit to continue to collect this information in your report here, and I think it's awesome that you do that. I think it's not only some academic or pie-in-the-sky reason to build a running history of the college, but it is literally, for some of us, a running advertisement of all the great things we do here. So I thank you and your staff for continuing to do that. The Tribal Colleges grant, we got a grant from the Lumina Foundation?
Somebody, Melinda, can you,
John.
John. John can tell us.
tied to the.
Yeah, John Clayton, Executive Director of Institutional Effectiveness Planning and Research.
Hi, John.
As part of the National Higher Education Benchmarking Institute, which we host here at the college, we were approached to offer the benchmarking services that we offer for community colleges, specifically for the tribal colleges. And so this is a grant that Jackie Edson and her staff have been working for.
They were in Albuquerque last month?
What's that?
They were in Albuquerque last month?
I'm not for sure exactly where they were.
That's what the report said.
Could be.
I don't know.
Jackie has been all over reaching out on this, but it was really a quick grant with Lumina. It went through a very expedited process on their part. They were excited that we were reaching out for an underrepresented population, something that's very near and dear to their mission. And so we've got an initial $75,000 to begin travel and begin building that collaboration with them. We're actually going over to Haskell Indian Nation here very soon in mid-July to begin that work with them to begin growing that team of the tribal colleges. I believe there's 35 of them around the nation that are accredited.
TCUs.
TCUs. Yep.
Just learned that. So.
Yep.
Thank you for that. I would also like to ask, Madam Chair, to follow up, that the Benchmarking Institute, I believe we've had it for some time, quite a bit.
20 years.
Like 20 something.
And it was, when I first came onto the board, we had, well, in all candor, criticism from the left and the right in the legislature and the governor's office over multiple administrations over what we're paying for and what do you do with the money we're giving you. So the Benchmarking Institute, I really feel Dr. Sopcich and his staff used it really as a system to develop useful metrics, not just something we were cooking the books on. But Madam Chair, I just want to raise that for the newer trustees to understand how critical that is, because here it's awesome we're serving this underprivileged population, but this overprivileged white crowd needed it once upon a time. So thank you for your, I have one other question, but Dr. John can go, sorry.
Can I make one quick statement?
Yeah, of course.
The Benchmarking Institute just hosted a national conference here this week, 65 individuals from around the nation. First time we've done that in 6 years. And so we just concluded that here at 3 o'clock this afternoon and had some wonderful speakers and opportunities to talk about benchmarking and expand that knowledge and growth opportunity for a lot of other colleges. So it was a great opportunity to host that.
I thank you very much for that. And this is just one extreme way in which we are literally a leader in this community college movement.
Helping us fulfill our vision.
Yes.
Absolutely.
One other thing on Panasonic, if I may. Why the shift to credit?
Well, I
It's probably a private conversation.
Say that out loud.
So,
As clean as you can say, and I'll follow up. But I'm
so it seems that they have determined that what they would really like is an opportunity for their folks not to just get trained for the job, but have a pipeline to future degrees so that they can start to grow. They've recognized that they're trucking in all of the leadership from other plants with the intent to send them all back. And there needs to be a pipeline for those folks to actually get enough training to rise in the institution and not just fill the entry-level positions. And so instead of CE, which had designed just a training program that was going to give them exactly what they needed the day they walked in, they wanted a guarantee that these things then also fed into larger degrees, which would require that we move that to the credit side, structure it inside of the KBOR-approved curriculum so that it will transfer to other places and align. And we've been working on some alignments with K-State Olathe to create a pipeline from this set of classes, which is about 16 hours worth of training, which would then fit into our 60-hour degree in automated engineering technology, which then has a direct pipeline through a cooperative agreement we've worked out with K-State Olathe into their engineering tech BS program, which they are bringing from Salina to here. So it creates a stable pipeline of folks getting the appropriate degrees for future jobs in their institution. So
Somebody had to figure that out.
they had to decide that that's where they wanted to go. We offered this early on in the arrangement, and they did not want to go with credit. They wanted to go with CE because CE is faster in terms of number of hours that you would have to spend, and then they realize that we can deliver what they need in a semester, but they're going to have to recognize that the semester is necessary as opposed to clock hour training to get them faster, but then not having that transfer anywhere else.
They're okay with this? All the stakeholders are okay with this?
So far, everybody seems to be pretty happy with it. The ultimate goal is that the design that we're working on right now will be duplicated with their other partners elsewhere, because what we're doing is different than what they have designed out in Reno, which doesn't really go beyond the community college level there. So they want this to be kind of a flagship program that they can then use.
Which is not without risk.
It tends to evolve a little bit, though, so we're trying to stay flexible.
No,
and
I trust what's
respond
going on.
to- Yeah, respond to what it is that they're asking, but I think we're on a good path right now, so we're good.
Well, I know Elisa Waldman did a lot on the credit side, and I appreciate everything you've done and your leadership on it, so.
Yeah, Elisa knocked down a lot of the barriers and figured out a ton of stuff that needed to be understood for them to get to their kind of understanding of what they really wanted. I'm just a closer. She
more than that.
She did all 8 innings to get here.
She did. She did a lot of groundwork.
But anyway, thank you. I just wanted to ask.
Thank you for that, Trustee Cross. Trustee Smith Everett, I believe you were
I
next.
was going to defer to Trustee Hamel only so that we can let poor John not
Yeah,
stand
so
up there.
I do have a question for John.
Yeah, I was just wanting to double check the benchmarking, and SAPL started before I was here, but were we one of the founders, or did we start that, or exactly, were we the first, or was
That's
there
our
a group
baby.
of us?
We
or-
started it.
Yeah, it's our
We were
group.
the ones that started it, okay, that's what I thought. I
It's
just
still
wanted
going.
to-
It's our.
Yeah, okay.
The founding, a couple of the founding members of that,
It started
it started
with us.
here, but a couple of the founding members departed this institution. One went to MCC, actually, who I worked with.
Well, they were consultants on it, but
idea.
the institute was actually the brainchild of Dr. Jeffrey Seibert, who passed away. He's actually on our wall of honor out here. This was Dr. Seibert's brainchild. He was a visionary leader when it came to understanding 20 years ago the importance of benchmarks. And there were benchmarks in some of the four-year, but there was not a lot in the community college sector at that point in time. And so he was really big across the nation. I think you're talking about Dr. Middlesworth.
Yes,
Van
Van
Middlesworth. And they collaborated very closely together on this project, but it was really Dr. Seibert who was the leader in it.
And if I may just follow up on that, in my opinion, the Sebelius administration, the Parkinson administration put pressure on us because we had such high reserves. And I really mean both sides of the aisle. So then later on, under the Brownback administration and the legislature were critical of what they were paying for, and that we had a lot of negative results. Like, for instance, Barack Obama started at Occidental College and then later transferred to Columbia. So technically, he's a negative statistic for Occidental. I think they claim him, but technically it's negative. So the Benchmark Institute allowed for us to put the time and money into figuring out exactly what happens to our students, that whether they transfer. We could define successes beyond any political some of it's political in terms of justifying a budget, but that it was critical for us to help articulate what we're doing and what the public's money is going toward. And I can't talk about it enough, so sorry to go on about it.
Yeah. And that's, obviously, I think it's exciting that we're trying to figure out the actual students' goals and their success, not just through, graduation rates. We do a lot more than that, and so, yeah.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
I think we're done with you. So
Well, we didn't mean that.
Yeah, maybe not.
did that come out too harsh? I'm sorry. I didn't mean for it to at all. Poor guy is standing up there at the podium forever. Trustee Smith Everett, you had something you wanted to.
I had a question on data, and I wondered if we could call up. No, I'm just kidding.
And Diesel?
My question, a good
Chris
comment, President Korb, is will there be a ribbon cutting for the CDL? So those of us that didn't get to
Yes.
play in the mud the first time get to go back
Yes,
out?
there is a ribbon cutting, and I believe it is scheduled for October the 4th.
Oh, October.
Yes,
Okay.
October 4th.
Gotcha. All right. And then Trustee Cross took all my questions about Panasonic.
Well, there you
so
go.
You got
So-
2 for 1 on that one.
So we're good.
Okay, that concludes my questions.
All right. Anything further for Dr. Korb before we move on? All right. Thank you for your report. It's always wonderful to hear from you and all the wonderful things that are going on. So next up is new business. I am not aware of any new business unless somebody corrects me on that. I'm also not aware of any old business unless someone corrects me on that. So that brings us to the consent agenda. The consent agenda is an opportunity for the board to take up in a single motion several items of fairly routine nature. The consent agenda begins on page 54 of your packet. And with that, I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
And do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Moved by trustee Mitchell, seconded by trustee Jennings. And before we proceed, I was remiss in not asking, is there anything someone would like to pull from the consent agenda before we vote on it? Hearing none, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Yes.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. The consent agenda is approved by a vote of 7-0. And that brings us to executive session, and somewhere here, somebody's told me what I'm supposed to say. We do have 2 executive sessions tonight, and we'll start with the first. I'd like to entertain a motion to go into executive session to discuss bargaining status under the employer-employee negotiations exception to the Kansas Open Meetings Act. No action will be taken during this session, and we anticipate the executive session will last for 1 hour. We will begin at 6:30 and end at 7:30, at which time open session will resume at this same location. We'd like to invite all of the trustees, along with Dr. Judy Korb, Dr. Mickey McLeod, Dr. Gurbachan Singh, Rachel Lears, Christina McGee, Kelsey Nazar, and Greg Goheen to join this executive session. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by trustee Smith Everett. Do I have a second? Seconded by trustee Jennings. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. We will reconvene at 6:30 in executive session in the adjacent room. Thank you, everybody. It's 7:30. We have returned from executive session, and no action was taken. However, we did have a very fruitful discussion. And so at this point, I'd like to make a recommendation. And that recommendation is, it is the recommendation of the college administration that the Board of Trustees accept and ratify the modifications/substantive changes to the terms of the master agreement between the Board of Trustees and the Faculty Association for a term period of July 1, 2024 to June 30th, 2027, as negotiated and as presented in the term sheet that was distributed to the Faculty Association, to the board, and was also, I believe, contained in the board packet that was published to the public as well. So with that, I will entertain a motion.
I motion.
Moved by trustee Jennings, seconded by trustee Mitchell. Any discussion? Trustee Smith Everett.
I just want to repeat some of the words that I said previously, which is when everybody comes to the table, we can have an agreement that is supportive and beneficial, and we appreciate the process.
Thank you for that. Any other comments or discussion? I would just like to express my thanks and appreciation to both teams, both the Faculty Association negotiating team and the administration and management team as well. Everybody obviously put a lot of time into this, as well as people working behind the scenes supporting those teams. Their hard work paid off, and we were able to get to this point, so I'll thank everybody for that. And with that, all in favor say aye.
Aye. Yes.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. I would now like to entertain a motion to go into a second executive session for the purpose of consultation with legal counsel regarding a pending legal matter, which would be deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship. No action will be taken during this session. The executive session will last for 30 minutes, beginning at 7:35 and ending at 8:05. At which time open session will resume at this same location. We'd like to invite all of the trustees, Dr. Judy Korb, Dr. Mickey McLeod, Christina McGee, and Kelsey Nazar. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion made by trustee Smith Everett. Do I have a second? Second. Seconded by trustee Jennings. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We'll commence with our executive session in about 2 minutes. All right, it is now 20:05 hours, and we have returned from executive session. No action was taken, and at this point, I'd like to engage. I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn. Do I have a motion?
Move to adjourn.
Moved by trustee Mitchell. Do I have a second? Seconded by trustee Hamel. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.